everyone. Today I'm going to start the first lecture of the subject Indian Financial System. In my first chapter, I would like to cover up certain important topics and the importance of Indian financial system. The learning objectives of my first lecture will know about the meaning of the system, what is a system in fact, and then I'm going to throw some light on the organization of the Indian financial system. In the second part, I will come to RBI, the role of RBI in the Indian financial system, and we'll see in particular what are the different roles and responsibilities of RBI. Now, first, let us have a look at the meaning of a system. What is a system basically? A system can be defined as a set of related components having a control unit. Now, a financial system, it consists of different related components such as financial companies, financial intermediaries, financial markets, and financial instruments. And the most important part of all these components which are related to each other is the control unit. Basically, the control unit of any financial system is the central bank of that country. In our country, we can say RBI acts as the central bank in India. So its function is to control and monitor the whole banking system as well as the financial system of the country. Now, before I move on to the importance of RBI and how it came into existence, I would like to throw some light on the organization of the financial system. This is a diagram where we can see the different components of the financial system in general. In every country, we'll see this three important components are there in any financial system. So the first component is Indian financial intermediaries. The second component, most important one, that is the financial markets. And the third one, which plays a very important role in any kind of financial system, is the financial assets or instruments. Now, talking about the different financial intermediaries that basically operate between the borrowers and the lenders in the financial market and try to facilitate this whole process of borrowing and lending between the borrowers and the lenders, they are the financial intermediaries. They actually act as the in between person. They are the intermediaries, they act as the middleman between the borrowers and lenders. Basically, the investors, if we are talking about investors like the layman, they're not aware about the different processes, how they can trade their financial assets or instruments in the financial markets, how they can buy or sell their assets, how they can invest. Because the financial markets in every country, they are basically regulated by different rules and procedures are there. To facilitate this whole process and to help this layman who are general people like us, you and me, who don't have any much idea about this financial markets, there are this middleman who are termed as financial intermediaries who act in this whole process to facilitate this process and make the process much simpler. Now, who can be the financial intermediaries? The first one, the most essential one, you can see usually they are the banks, right? If we want to deposit any amount or we want to invest in some financial assets, we usually approach the banks. So the first component, which is very important part, is the banks, any category. The second one is NBFCs. Now, what is NBFCs? These are non-banking financial companies who are not banks, but they facilitate this uh, process of financial borrowing and lending. The third category we can say about us, they are the mutual funds, they are asset management companies who tends to manage our assets on behalf of us. They take this investment decision, they analyze different funds, they even form the different funds which comprises of debt fund and equity fund or a mixture of both of them according to the risk preference of the investors, and they take this investment decisions on behalf of the investors. They are the mutual funds. The fourth one is the insurance organization. Any insurance organization, insurance is basically, we can say, the transferring of risk from one person to another. So this insurance companies, they also act as an intermediaries between the policy holder, insurer, and the insured. So these four are the basically important categories we can see who comes under the financial intermediaries. Now we move on to the financial markets categories, right? Financial market categories, if we divide the financial markets, we see that basically two terms are there. That is, it can be categorized into two types. One is the money market, and another is the capital or the securities market. Now, money market is basically a short-term market, and it comprises of debt funds, and capital or securities market is a long-term market. It can comprise of both debt and equity. According to the different money market instruments that are available, this market is further categorized into call market, treasury bills market, commercial paper market, certificate of deposit market, and repo market. The second category of financial market is capital or securities market. It consists of two different markets. One is primary or new issue market. That is primary market, and other is secondary market. Primary market is basically, we can see, when any company, they issue their securities to the investors for the first time. It may be through IPOs, like initial public offerings. So this market basically consists of participants who are the issuer, that is the companies, and the investors who are directly taking investing, or they're buying their shares for the first time. Now the second category is the secondary market. It is also well known as the stock market. Now the stock market or the stock exchanges, there is no role which is played by the companies now. It is now consist of investors to investors transaction. That is, if one investors has bought any shares, they want to sell them, then another investor is there to buy that financial asset. So this is the operation of a stock market, where the transaction between one investor to another investor takes place. This is all about financial markets. We'll go into detail in our coming lectures. We will be discussing about the different instruments of the money market. We'll be discussing about the different instruments of the capital market as well. Now let us have a look at the different financial assets or instruments that are available. There we see that basically the first is what primary or direct instruments. They can be like equity shares or ordinary shares. Another is the preference shares are there, debentures are there, or any kind of innovative debt instruments are there. We'll talk later on about the various categories. Now, indirect. What do you mean by indirect financial instruments? These are basically, the investors cannot buy this kind of instruments directly from the market. They have to take help of any intermediaries. Has to be there, like mutual fund units. Like that, they vary from different mutual funds companies to companies. Then security receipts are similarly same kind of instruments are there, which are indirect in nature. Securitized debt instruments are also there, which are indirect in nature. The third category is basically derivatives. Now, when we are talking about derivatives, what are derivatives? Derivatives are basically, we can say they are risk mitigating instruments which derive its value from the underlying assets. They are termed as derivatives. Now, derivatives usually can be categorized. These three categories which are shown in the picture, they are the most useful and common categories of derivatives. That is forward, futures, and options. The fourth category is also there, which is called the swaps. Now, discussing about the first category of derivatives, if we're talking about options. So, I will just give a little bit description about options. Later on, we'll study this thoroughly. Options, basically, options means a choice. So, these instruments basically give the investors a choice to buy or sell. This means the seller of the option, they don't have any right, but the buyer of this option who is buying this option, they are basically buying this choice by paying a price for this option, and that price is called option premium. Now the buyer of the option, they have right to implement the option. Either they buy the right to buy or right to sell options. So accordingly, we can say the option which is right to buy, right to purchase, that is called the call option, and right to sell is the put option. So basically, the buyer of option, they have the right and no any obligations. Whereas if we're talking about seller of the option, they have you can say they have obligation, they don't have any right. So the buyer of the option, if they want to implement that option, then there is no other options are there or nothing, no choices are there for the seller of an option. It is their obligation to fulfill that option. So this is the most important kind of derivatives that we have, that is options. Now we are moving on to the forward. Forward, basically we'll see that both the buyer and the seller of this forward contract, both of them have obligations. Later on, with a proper example, I will show the working of the forward derivative and the option derivative, how they work. Without taking an example, it's really not possible to make people know about how this working goes on and all. But just to give an overview of the forward derivative, I'm telling that this forward derivatives, they basically, both the buyer and the seller, they are having obligations on the date of expiration of the contract. So when the contract basically expire, what do we see that both the parties have to fulfill those obligations at the date of expiration. Now, what are these futures? Futures and forwards, basically they both of them are same, but forward contracts, they are more personalized or tailor-made kind of contracts, we can say, where the buyer and seller of the contracts, they personalize and fulfill their needs accordingly. Whereas these futures, they are more like, they are very much standardized and they can be traded in the exchange also. Standardized in the sense that it is like 30 months contracts or 60 months or 90 months contract. Date of expiration is fixed as per the rules and regulations of the exchange. Quantity is also standardized. So anybody who is wanting a quantity which is other than that, whatever a standardized form, they need to go for a forward contract because that is personalized, whereas this futures is standardized. Now, the forward contract also it cannot be traded. The risk is completely assumed by both the buyer and the seller. Whereas in the futures, if a buyer or a seller of the future contracts they want to transfer that risk to other, they can easily trade it through the exchange. So that is the basic difference between a forward and a future. Now I will move on to another categories. Here I have talked about like okay, these are basically innovative debt instruments that I talked about. What are those? I will talk about these details. Convertible debentures which can be converted to you can see shares, non-convertible which cannot be converted, secured, premium notes are there, the certain characteristics are there which are associated, warrants, this working is same as options. This will also be discussed in details later on. All these things will be covered in details in the later slides of the presentation. So that's all for now. I will start the next lecture. Thank you.